Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast and Who Dat. And this evening we got some main course, and we're going to be going over the Saints' victory, home victory, week one victory over the Tennessee Titans, 17 to 15. And a lot of people, like stress-free games that aren't nail biters. They want the blowout, so they can just sit back and relax and watch them. Or they want games that are shootouts where each team scores 28 plus points or more. But the most rewarding games to me are games like this, the feeling, the adrenaline and the dopamine dump that you get after a win like this is like one of the best feelings in the world. And I also am a fan of defense. I like watching good defense, so I'm not a huge fan of like shootouts and just defenses being completely inept. So I love this game for a week one win. I can admit is maybe a little closer than I'd like to get the win for just a 1 point game win. But I feel good about it. But it's week one, and there definitely is still stuff to clean up. But let's get into it. I want to go over like the highlight moments. The key moments in the game. So can I get a menu? And the first one was right out of the gate, very Saintsy. Rashid Shaheed returns a kickoff, and he doesn't even. I don't think he even got to the 25-yard anyways, because they got the new fair catch rule. If you're inside the 15, you can still call a fair catch and get it at your own 25. But almost every time Rashid Shaheed got a kickoff return opportunity, he was returning. He wasn't calling fair catch on anything. But I guess on some of them he probably should have because he didn't get to the 25 every time. But on the first one of the game, he fumbles. He fumbles. Like it was a weird play where Amani Hooker ripped it away from him and then bounced out of bounds. Like uh, I'll definitely admit, like any on any good call for the Saints or any bad call for the Saints, I'm very biased. So I was saying that he never established uh, being in bounds. I thought that he took it away and then bounced out of bounds like right away, but just unlucky right out of the gate. I was prepared for a long day after that, but luckily, as you already know, the end of the game, the Saints ended up settling down, and Rashid Shaheed ended up having some of the biggest and best moments of the game. So that was just the opening kickoff. Talk about a heart attack right just to start the season. And then so the Saints they looked good on defense. They were pressuring Tannehill, getting after him, getting him off his spot, and that came. This is kind of a disappointing kind of one of the few down moments in the game of just like, man, some of these players just can't catch a break. But at the 10 mark of the second quarter, Peyton Turner, he had a good rush coming off the blind side of Tannehill where he like almost pushed the offensive lineman into the back of Tannehill, and then I don't know, he got pushed back by the offensive lineman, and I guess stepped weirdly, oddly on his foot, and now he's hurt. Peyton Turner, he got hurt on that play, and we're hearing it's a turf toe injury, and it's going to need surgery. So it's similar to kind of like Michael Thomas when he hurt his in week three last year, and then week eight comes along, so that's 5 weeks, 6 weeks later, and he ended up just going on IR. And then the same thing happened like the last preseason game of 2022. Peyton Turner, he got the same injury and had to have surgery on his uh, on for turf toe surgery for his toe, and so that would have been like, and didn't come back till week 12 where he ended up getting hurt again. So that would have been like 13 weeks. So I would say if Peyton Turner returns at all, because if Michael Thomas didn't, the off the surgery for this, depending on the severity of it and how quickly Peyton Turner heals. I mean, you're probably looking at Peyton Turner to be out for at least 6 to 12 weeks, maybe more. And it was just disappointing because I mean he was getting good pressure off that blind side, rushing against the Titans left tackle, but he only got 5 snaps. Like the guy can't catch a break with injuries at all, and people been talking. There's been a lot of talk recently about turf, and more people obviously. The majority of the NFL fans don't even know who Peyton Turner is, but they definitely know who Aaron Rodgers is, who tore his Achilles on turf at MetLife Stadium on Monday night. So uh, I was already thinking that when he got the foot injury, ankle injury, before I knew what it was, I was thinking the same thing about the turf being terrible. So that early on, like not even to halftime yet, and they already have an injured player that's pretty much going to be out for the rest of the year. And then at the 9:54 mark, go on to the next highlight of this game. 9:54 mark of the second quarter, Zach Bond blocks a punt, and Steve Gleason's in the house, so that brings a lot of emotion. And you thought that was going to kind of be a momentum swing, but that they just weren't really able to put anything together. Good reason for that is because of how bad in the first half that uh, uh, Trevor Penning looked. He was just a swinging gate all the game, and the Saints ended up just having to settle for a field goal there. But the Saints defense continued to play really well, keeping the score low. And then at the 7:40 mark of the second quarter, there's a lot of people want to call it a no call Carr fumble that should have been returned for a touchdown. And I already mentioned how I'm kind of biased on the good plays and the bad plays and the good calls and the bad calls. I definitely could see, it was called an incomplete pass on the field. So, it has to be definitive evidence that it was a fumble and that and it wouldn't have been returned for a touchdown anyways because they whistled it dead. But I mean, his arm was coming forward and the ball, it looked like it may have been a open hand, but the ball came forward and it was spinning. It had spin on it. So to me, there's a lot of Saints media people and Saints fans out there that want to say that it was a fumble, but I'm never gonna go against the sides of calls that go for the Saints. So I wasn't with that at all. So the Saints were able to keep possession there, but once again, there's definitely a lot of talk about how Derek Carr struggles in the red zone, and over his whole career with the Raiders had that issue, and you definitely saw that in this game. And they were able to just get another field goal off of that, and then at the 6:40 mark of the second quarter, Marshawn Lattimore got an interception while covering DeAndre Hopkins. So, and that was just one of 3 interceptions Ryan Tannehill uh, uh, was able to get off of them. But Saints weren't really able to do much of that with that. Weren't able to get a touchdown even with the momentum swing and the decent field goal field position. And then this came at the end of the third quarter, end of the half, with just 30 seconds left. The Saints were marching again, getting down in the red zone. You're hoping they'll be able to come away with maybe a touchdown or at least a field goal, because they're around like the 35, 30 yard line there. And I've mentioned this about Derek Carr over my time of watching him with the Raiders and not being overly impressed. And I'll admit I'm not 100% sold on him yet. But when he throws interceptions or when he has a turnover, he's just basically like gift wrapping it to to the opposing defenses. But very similar to Drew Brees, Drew Brees early in his career and probably the first half of his career with the Saints. He threw like double digit interceptions or 15 interceptions a game. Not like the last 3 or 4 years of his career where he only threw like less than double digits. But uh, just like Drew Brees, I mean, when Drew Brees threw an interception, it was usually thrown right to a defender. It's not like the defender is making a crazy play or anything like that. He just threw it right to him. So that's what happened at the 32nd mark of the second quarter. Here's Amani Hooker again with the second turnover, getting the second turnover of the game, and that was off of just a horrible throw by Derek Carr. He was literally thrown right to him. And after the game and post game interviews and stuff, Derek Carr was just saying he was just kind of getting antsy and too impatient, and he just said he was being dumb. Well, Saints lucky to win this game by 1 point, and he's gonna have to clean that up and not stop being dumb because unlike when he was with the Raiders, he's got a defense that can bail him out and hold obviously a 1 point lead in a game. So there's no need for him to make plays like that, especially when there's an opportunity of 3 points on the board. All right. So now we're getting into the second half here, and this would have been like the 12-minute and 55 seconds mark of the third quarter. Hugo Amadi gets another interception. He wasn't the one that came down with it, but he had a great pass deflection, pass breakup against who again? DeAndre Hopkins, and it was tipped right to Marcus May. And the only thing that was unlucky about that interception is the Saints were backed up. They only got like the interception for field position. It was like inside their own 10-yard line. Would have been nice if Marcus May could have fell down in their own end zone and got the ball out of their own 20, but weren't able to do that. But Saints still trying to make this game close and keep it close. With this would have been trying to see. This would have been this would have made the game. I think this would have tied it up, not 9-9 with at this point in the game. This would have been the 9:25 mark of the third quarter. Blake Rupe hits a clutch 52-yard field goal, and he was clutch and good all game. Let's see here what his numbers were. So he was 3 of 3 on field goal makes and attempts, and was so 100% packed, and then 1 for 1 on extra points. So he accounted for 10 of the Saints' 15 points or 16 points. And the funny thing about that is, so he's so clutch in that game. And you remember Will Lutz's agent, after he got traded to the Broncos, like crying about how he didn't lose the competition or the better player didn't get traded. Well, Will Lutz missed a field goal and and uh, and missed an extra point in the Denver Broncos loss, Sean Payton's loss to my friends Raiders, and that final score of that game was what 17-16. So they lost by 1 point when uh, Will Lutz left 4 points on the board. So that's just I'd like to know what Will Lutz's agent has to say now. But Blake Grupe was clutch. The Saints special teams, besides the fumble by Rashid Shaheed to start the game, was very good. I liked how Lou Headley played. He had 5 punts for a 40.2-yard average, but only one was inside the 10. That would have been my only uh, uh, downgrade about him. Only thing that I wasn't impressed by, but he had a long of 52, and just off of all his punts, they were all kind of low liners, so they didn't give like much of a chance for any of the Titans uh, players to get any kind of return off of them. But yeah, the special teams, I was a little worried about the special teams in regards to covering kicks and covering punts. But and then I was even a little uneasy about the possibility of having two rookies as your kicker and your punter. But they were solid in this game. But let's hope they can keep it up. So in the so this would have been at the 3 minute and 8 second mark of the third quarter. Paulson Adebo comes down with another interception. So the third interception of the uh, of Ryan Tannehill. And so I guess I don't know if people categorize block punts as turnovers, but I'm going to call it that and say that the Saints got four turnovers in this game. So this game that they got four turnovers and gave away, had two giveaways as well. But this game really shouldn't have even been close because of that. When a team turns the ball over four times, they're usually getting blown out. So it was just definitely a defensive game and a defensive struggle, even with the Saints getting as many turnovers as they did. But you love to see this early on. I was a little worried about if the Saints defense would just turn it right back on and play like they did at the end of the season last year, because I'm a little worried about the age of Cameron Jordan, Marcus May, the Honey Badger, Mario Davis, but they look in mid-season form in this game and looking even better with the turnovers. They only had 7 interceptions all year last year, and they had 3 in this game. So let's hope they can continue to pile on the turnovers and block punts and block field goals and just keep it going. And so that interception ended up leading to the only touchdown of the game, and that was at the 1 minute and 23 minute mark of the third quarter. Rashid Shaheed went on like a stutter route, go route, and as the play was going, you could hear Derek Carr saying, "Go, go, 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 go," wanting him to run as fast as possible. So he just ended up wide open in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. So that took the Saints lead to that was 16-9 at that point, I believe. Yeah, 16-9. Yeah, 16-9 at that point. And that ended up being all they would need. But the game wasn't over yet. At least we didn't know that the game was going to be over yet. So then nothing really happened in between this play, this key moment of the game. That this really should have been like the ender of the game. Was at 6:51 of the fourth quarter. There was a no call pass interference on a deep pass from Carr to Olave that should have set the Saints up at the 3-yard line. Like that would have, if the Saints would have been able to get that and get another field goal or get another touchdown, which I'd hoped that our boy Jamal Williams could have banged in a 3-yard run for a touchdown, even though the offensive line wasn't playing well, didn't play well in the first half. Pass blocking looked better in the second half. I think they started to give Trevor Penning some help there, but we're just never really good running the ball. But would have hoped that Jamal Williams could have banged in a touchdown, but it was irrelevant because they didn't call the penalty there, and so the Saints just didn't get anything out of that. So the score stayed the same. It may have been 16-12 at that point. And then at the 2 minute and 17-second mark of the fourth quarter, the Titans elected to just kick a field goal instead of going for it. I think it was 3rd and 6, I think it was 3rd and 6. And they had all their timeouts, and it had been a defensive struggle, but I was really surprised they didn't go for it. So they ended up just kicking a field goal there to make it 16-15, a 1-point game, and we're hoping to get the ball back. But then at the 1 minute and 46 second mark of the fourth quarter, on 3rd and 6, they put all the trust in Derek Carr to allow him to throw it and try to make plays and get first downs instead of just running it 3 times and trying to make the Titans use all their timeouts to just run some clock. But uh, it was 3rd and 6, and Derek Carr called game with a deep pass to Shaheed. That pretty much was the ender of the game. And there's a good video out there from NFL showing Derek Carr saying that he wants to throw another go route, like he threw one for a touchdown to Rashid, and he wants him to go. And you got Jameis Winston on the side saying yes, yes, and Derek Carr goes over to Shaheed before the plays and just tells him to run, 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 and that's just an awesome moment. If you go watch that video, man, that was giving me goosebumps. And Rashid Shaheed came down with it. Only thing I can would be critical of that play is that Rashid Shaheed kind of let himself out of bounds there, so wasn't able to stay in bounds. So there were still some moments there, tense moments, even after that big play to get some first downs. And the one that finally ended the game came at 1 minute and 39 seconds of the fourth quarter. Game over, with Jamal Williams finally getting his first decent run of the game. It was like a 8-yard run, and let's see if I got see exactly what it was. Yeah, it was like an 11-yard run to end the game, and gave everyone, even with that, gave everyone a heart attack at the end of the game there, because he almost fumbled the ball away and was lucky to get it back. But that was the end of the game, and after that it was just kneel downs, and it was pretty much it was just over after that. And you could see Derek Carr was pumped up. He threw the football into the stands afterward, showing some emotion. You like to see that. That's not something you really got to see from Jameis Winston during his times as being a starter, or definitely not Andy Dalton or Trevor Siemian. You want to see that emotion, you know. That's something that I think this team has been missing, especially been missing at the quarterback position. But let's go over some stats here real quick, some passing stats and some of the receiving leaders in this game, and then we'll get to my hot takes and my player of the game and game score pick. So Derek Carr was 23 for 33 for 305 yards for a touchdown and 1 interception for a 96.2 quarterback rating. So in the first game, the Saints quarterback is throwing for 300 yards. I don't know if the Saints had more than maybe 2 or 3 300 games all year last year with Andy Dalton. I think they probably only had maybe 1 or 2 from Andy Dalton. But the first game, you got Derek Carr coming out and throwing for 305 yards. So I'm impressed by that. The only negative for him on the day, and this was even with him being pressured all game, the offensive line just really wasn't great in this game. But I will credit them for cleaning it up and looking better in the second half. But the only negative for Carr is the interception. That was just an awful interception. But I kind of knew what we were getting when we were getting Derek Carr. He does make some boneheaded plays sometimes, so I really didn't surprise me all that much. And then talking about the running game that ended up finishing off the game, Jamal Williams, he had 18 carries, but only for 45 yards. That's just a 2.5 yard average, and obviously had the long that sealed the game. But there just wasn't much room for him to get going. And then they had some Rashid Shaheed go arounds, receiver go arounds. But that came at the end of the game. They were trying to salt the game away, and he had I think the longest one he had was on that final drive, but it ended up getting called back because of a hold by Keith Kirkwood. But he had 2 carries for 11 yards, which is that's decent per carry average, 5.5 with the long of 6. But he was on the last carry that he had, he was able, he did a good job getting down and sliding down and staying in bounds to to keep the clock going. So, but other than that, there wasn't much running on the day. So just not overly impressive. They only had about 60 yards rushing, 65 yards rushing all game. But the receivers, the three main guys on this team were good. Chris Olave was great at picking up second and long and third down, converting third downs. He was 8 for 12 with a 4 point average, 14-point average with a 45-yard long and on off of 10 targets. So he was catching almost everything thrown to him, and he was big time. He was big time. And then Rashid Shaheed, we know he pretty much, him and Derek Carr pretty much called game on that 41-yard completion, but he was had 5 catches for 89 yards with a 17.8-yard average and a touchdown. The only negative really for Shaheed was just the first moment of the game where he fumbled on the kickoff return. And I think I'd also probably like to see him call fair catch a little bit more on some of those kickoff returns. But other than that, he was clutch in this game. And then Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, it seemed like he had kind of a quiet game, but he helped convert maybe a third down in there and had the big play to start the game off. I thought for sure that Michael Thomas was about to have a 100-yard game and have a touchdown in this game because first play of the game, first play for the Saints on offense, Derek Carr goes deep to him for a 25-yard completion. But he was a little bit quiet, a little bit quieter after that compared to Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, but still had a good game. With the 17 games now, your average doesn't have to be too great to have a 1,000-yard season. But he had 5 catches for 61 yards with a 12.2-yard average and that 25-yard long and off of 8 targets. So he was getting targets. He had more targets than Shaheed did. And then Juwan Johnson only had 3 catches for 36 yards with a 12 average with a 27-yard long, so off of 5 targets. So the majority of his yards came off of just 1 completion. Then there really wasn't much action. So your main guys, your main 4 guys there were making all the plays, and like you expect and want to see are the ones making all the plays out there. And then on to defense, which was harassing. Ryan Tannehill all game and got those interceptions and had a bunch of pass deflections. Maybe could have had 2 more. Probably should have had maybe 5 interceptions in this game. But Cam Jordan had 5 total tackles with 2 solos, a half a sack in there. Demario Davis led the Saints in tackles with 10 total with 9 solo. And Cameron Jordan, before I get past Cameron Jordan too far, also had 2 big pass breakups at the line. Possibly stopping some completions there that could have picked up some first downs. And then let's see here. Sacks. Carl Granderson looked good. I'm upset about Peyton Turner getting hurt and probably being out for the majority of the season now. But Peyton Turner definitely looked like he deserved to be the starter anyways because he had 4 total tackles, two solo with 1.5 sacks. So he was harassing Ryan Tannehill in this game. And then Pete Werner was in on a sack as well. He was the second leader on the team in tackles with 8 total with 3 solo with a half a sack in there. And Brian Bresee also got a half a sack. So he had one total tackle with a half a sack in there. So it would have been an assisted. But overall, I mean, this was an exciting game, low scoring game, nail biter, but I enjoyed it. It was a joy, an enjoying game to watch. I mean, anytime the Saints win, it's a joy to me. And things that kind of stuck out is that the Saints definitely were missing Alvin Kamara in this game. It would have probably been beneficial to have him because the running game was just non-existent for the most of the game. So they need to fix that and fix the offensive line. But let's go to my game picks here. So I picked my player of the game to be Juwan Johnson. I thought Juwan Johnson was going to come in this game and have 100 yards and have a touchdown, but he ended up being the second lowest receiver in this game, only having the 3 catches. Uh, with 36 yards, with just the 27 yards. But he had I think he had two. He had definitely the one big third down conversion there. But he ended up being quiet compared to Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Michael Thomas. But my hot take hit. I didn't expect Derrick Henry to rush for 100 yards in this game, and he ended up only having 15 rushes for 63 yards with the 4.2 yard average with an 18-yard long. But I mean, early in the game, I think that's where the Tennessee Titans kind of messed up in this game is that they didn't give it to Derrick Henry enough because he also had 2 catches for 56 yards with a 28-yard average with the 46-yard long. Like I think if they would have gave it to Derrick Henry more often earlier in the game because they were wanting to mix in some receiver end arounds and uh, mixing in Tajay Spears, who only had about 3 carries, but it just didn't seem like they were giving him enough early on. By the time they were starting to give it to him more and starting to throw it to him more, it was kind of late in the game. But I think that's really where the Titans messed up in this game. It's not riding Derrick Henry enough. I know it's early in the game and early in the season, and you're not wanting to wear down your 29-year-old running back. You got to be load management for a running back that's carried as much as he has and taken as many hits over his career and at the age that he is now. But I think that's really where they messed up. And then I picked the Saints to win this game. I thought they had maybe been a little bit better in scoring points, but I didn't expect the Titans to score over 21 touchdowns. I didn't think or 21 points. I didn't think they were going to get 3 touchdowns or were going to be held under 20 points, and they were. So my pick for this game, I picked the Saints to win 24-17. So I was pretty close with the Titans score. I was off about eight points for the Saints. So one score for the Saints if they had a 2 point conversion in there. So I would say I was close. My picks for the score was close, and I got the Derrick Henry hot take right. But this game was enjoyable, and I'm just ready. I'm ready for Carolina on Monday. I had to look at that. So the Saints don't have very many primetime games, but they already have one at I think it's like 6:15 Central Time on Monday night against Carolina. And Carolina, they didn't look great. Bryce Young didn't look great, and I think their best corner, J.C. Horn, got hurt. So we'll have another podcast for to talk a little bit more about that and talk about their injury report. But anyways, I think that's all I have for you. So who dat? Can I get a check, please?